Welcome back to Book Break, the YouTube channel where we make sure you are the most knowledgeable member of your book club. I have got a bunch of weird and wonderful books to recommend to you today. They might have really interesting backstories or very unusual premises. Either way, you are going to want to be the first to tell your friends about all of these. Let's start with some books with really unusual formats. I can guarantee your friends will never have seen anything quite like this before. So first up, I've got Deep Wheel Orcadia by Harry Josephine Giles. This is a science fiction novel in verse written in the Orkney dialect. It's a minority dialect. This is actually the first full-length adult fiction novel to have been written in the Orkney dialect in over 50 years. So this is a big deal. But don't worry if you're not familiar with the Orkney dialect. The book comes with parallel translations throughout, translated into really playful English to help capture all of the nuances of the original. This is like a sci-fi poetry adventure through space and through language. You will definitely impress your friends with having discovered this unique gem. Then I've got The Black Locomotive by Ryan Hughes. Ryan Hughes is a graphic designer, and this book is definitely the work of a graphic designer. He really plays with fonts and layouts, but not in a gimmicky way. Ryan Hughes really understands how to use these layouts to add layers to his storytelling. And there's a great story here. This is a mystery taking place under the ground of London. So a strange anomaly is discovered in the new top secret Crossrail extension that may transform our understanding of the history and origins of London. And then for some poetry that plays with form in a really interesting way, All the Names Given by Raymond Antrobus. So Raymond Antrobus is a poet who's gaining a lot of recognition at the moment. This is his second collection, and it explores themes of race, family, history, and identity. Raymond Antrobus himself is deaf, and he uses caption poems throughout this collection, partially inspired by the work of deaf sound artist Christine Sun Kim. With these captions, Antrobus is seeking to transcribe feelings and experiences into words, not just sounds. So you might get a caption that describes a heart accelerating or the music of urgent kindness. Then for some books with really strange premises that you won't be able to wait to discuss with your friends. I've got here Mother for Dinner by Shalom Auslander, which you might have heard me mention a few times on Book Break before, because this is a book about a family of cannibals. Our main character is one in a family of 12, and they are ancestral cannibal Americans. This is a history and tradition that he doesn't want any part of. But as the book goes on, after the death of his mother, who wished on her deathbed for her family to follow the tradition and eat her, our main character starts to understand some of the connections with his roots. So it's a satire about identity, it's also a dark comedy, and it is deeply strange. The Test by Sylvain Neuvel has a premise that I don't actually want to tell you too much about because I don't want to give you spoilers. This is a really short little book that is on the surface about a British citizenship test, but it ends up devolving into something more like an episode of Black Mirror. I'm not going to give you any more spoilers than that, but I do recommend that you read this one and then tell your friends to do the same, because this took turns I was not expecting. You'll also have fun talking to your friends about When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole, which is a thriller/horror. So just like the movie Get Out turned racism into horror, this book does a similar thing with turning gentrification into horror. So much to unpack in that book, definitely one you'll want to talk to your friends about. My final category is books with interesting backstories, so you can show off to your friends that you were the first to know. First up, I've got The Prince of the Skies by Antonio Iturbe, which will be a real nostalgia journey for a lot of people. This tells the story of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who is the author of the book The Little Prince. This is a really fun historical fiction adventure novel in its own right, but it follows the life of this author who wrote such a beloved book that so many of us treasure. And it turns out that author had a really interesting life, and you'll actually notice some parallels between his life and the book The Little Prince. The biggest connection is that de Saint-Exupéry was himself a pilot during the war, and so we follow his adventures through the sky, and we also see him begin to weave together a story that will sound very familiar. The House Without Windows by Barbara Newhall Follett has a strange and sad backstory. So Barbara Newhall Follett wrote this book when she was just 12 years old, which when you read it, you will find amazing. The writing is gorgeous. It does not read like it was written by a 12-year-old. The story itself is bizarre and fantastical. It is about a young 12-year-old girl who does not want to live in a house with her family. She wants to run away and disappear into nature, and that is exactly what she does. Her heartbroken parents cannot bring her back home. And the strangest part of this story is that several years after this was written and Barbara Newhall Follett became this child prodigy, she vanished from her home without a trace, and that mystery has still never been solved. And finally, The 100 Murders by Seishi Yokomozo. This book has just been published into English for the first time recently, and it is getting a lot of buzz, but not so much that you can't still be the first to tell your friends about it. But despite all the growing hype, this is not actually a new book at all. This book and this author have been famous in Japan since the 40s. He's sort of the Japanese Agatha Christie, and this novel is just the first in a whole series to feature Detective Kosuke Kindaichi. I predict that the buzz around this is only going to get bigger, so be the first to tell your friends about this new craze. If you want more strange and unusual recommendations, I will link here to a video we made previously of some of the most bizarre books we have ever read here on Book Break, and I would also love to hear your recommendations in the comments box below. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel because we post new videos twice every week. See you next time!